Hi, my name is David Bryant with the Killeen Daily Herald. Today we'll be sitting down with Kathi Thomas, the Democratic nominee for U.S. House District 25. All right, so we'll start off with, what is your background and your qualifications for the office?
I've been a wedding coordinator and a special events coordinator, and that is working with people to help bring them to a common goal and get them to work together. I think that's a key qualification for Congress. It doesn't bother me to work with lots of people with lots of moving parts because that's what I do for a living. I also was a precinct chair for about 7 years. I helped run my husband's campaign when he campaigned for Hayes Trinity Groundwater Conservation District, which he won over an incumbent. He was actually the only non-Republican to win that entire year that wasn't an incumbent, so we were pretty proud of that. And then I've also ran for state senate in 2006, and while I didn't win, I actually won Travis County by almost 23 points, and I took my opponent down in every county he lost percentage points. So that was a lot of fun.
Oh, I imagine. And where's your actual hometown? Where are you from and everything?
I'm from East Texas, Southeast Texas. I have lived in Austin almost as long as I lived in Southeast Texas. I live between Austin and Dripping. We usually just say Hayes County. My daughter goes to Dripping Springs High School, but our address is an Austin address, but it is Hayes County.
Okay. All right, now what are your top 3 priorities if you were elected?
Immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform, campaign finance reform, and climate change legislation.
Okay, could you give me a little bit of information
Certainly.
on those about what it is that makes them important to you?
Comprehensive immigration reform is important. I think it's important not only morally and ethically, but it's also good for business. I know whenever, I can't remember whether it was Georgia or Alabama passed the big law where they basically ran all undocumented people out of their state, they couldn't even get prisoners to go out and pick their onions. They said they just rotted in the fields because, quite frankly, Americans won't do those jobs. They're hard work. The pay is not great, and people say, well, we should pay more. It's like, absolutely. And when we're ready to start paying $15 a pound for tomatoes and $12 a head for lettuce, then we can get Americans to go out and do those jobs. But right now, our immigrant labor is what's keeping the agriculture business in Texas and most of the nation alive.
Okay.
And then with the others, climate change, it is important. It's not going to affect us that much, but my daughter's 15. It'll probably affect her a little bit, and it will definitely affect whenever she has a family. The difference, especially with Texas coastline, central Texas, we think, oh, well, we don't have anything to worry, but we do when so many of our reservoirs were almost dry. I think a couple of them actually ran dry in this last drought, and we are although we are having rain now, we're just kind of in our spells between droughts because, as you know, we have droughts regularly. And with climate change, the conservative scientists are saying that we'll lose at least 10% of our reservoirs, and the more progressive ones are saying maybe even up to 40%. That's serious business whenever we've got the kind of growth we have in this district and we don't have the water to support it. Can't live without the water. So that needs to be taken care of, and that goes into fossil fuels, trying to move us off of fossil fuels and going into green energy, things like wind, solar. We've got so much wind and solar here. Why aren't we utilizing more of it? And then I'd like to see us doing some thorium research. I think thorium is a great possibility for replacing nuclear. It doesn't have the disadvantages that enriched uranium does, and it will actually use up the bad remains from uranium right now, and it uses up, I think it's like 97% efficient. So I'd really like to see that going on. And then the finance reform, campaign finance reform. I think as long as we have people putting dark money into races and basically, buying their own congressman, I don't think that's a good idea. We need to know where every dollar is coming from whenever somebody is getting money for races. We need to know when they put these commercials on TV and it has these great names like Good People for a Wonderful America or whatever. Who is that? Because when they're advocating for something, and let's say they're advocating for, solar is bad, whatever. And then we find out, it's the fossil fuel people doing that. Then we need to know that. Because if we know where it's coming from, we can make good decisions. As long as we're living in ignorance, it's hard to make good decisions.
Okay. Now, how do you plan to represent the people of this district?
Well, I hope. I really enjoy getting out and meeting people. I want to spend time working with people. I'd like to do some things like doing even video conferencing where even when I'm in Washington, we could say maybe once a quarter we're going to have one for every single county where people could get together or they could call in and I don't understand quite all the mechanics of it, but where we could do like a video town hall so that we can be in constant communication. I want to make sure that people understand I'm very accessible. They don't ever have to worry about going through channels and all that type of thing. Continuing to get to know people in the district. It's a huge district, as you know, from Hays County to Tarrant County. And a lot of it doesn't have a whole lot in common. Austin doesn't have a whole lot in common with, for example, I don't know, Erath County. You know, they both have colleges, but that's about the only thing that they have in common. So working with folks in both parties and in independents, I think it's important. Once you're elected to an office, you represent everybody. I know someone told me that they visited my opponent in his office and the first thing he said is, "Did you vote for me?" I don't think you ever ask someone that. Once you're elected, you're everybody's congressperson, you're everybody's employee. So I think we need to remember that we are employees when we're congressmen. We're not above everybody else.
Okay. Now, Fort Hood has the largest economic impact in the region. In fact, it's about $36 billion for the state.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely one of the largest employers. As a member of Congress, how would you represent the post and its interest in order to help maintain that vital economy for here, and not only this region, but for the entire state?
I think we need to advocate for our military here. I would do this in consultation with the commanders there, asking them what they need. I found a lot of times when you just assume what people need and you go and you tell them what they need, it's usually not what they need. Best thing to do, I think, is to ask them, what do you need most? Do you need more money for training? Do you need it for facilities? I know they just got some money for some upgrades of facilities, which I think is terrific. Thank you to the congressman that got that here. That was a wonderful thing. But let's find out what they need, and then we'll work with them with that. We'll make sure we get what they need to have.
Okay. And what is your plan to bring prime jobs to the area? Now, I know you did say you're talking about that green energy, and that would be a huge boost, not only because it would be great for this area, because we have it, but we have such a huge ready force coming off of Fort Hood.
Absolutely.
I mean, monthly. That would be perfect to keep them in our area and keep them employed. I mean, what would be your plan to bring those jobs to here?
Well, I think with the University of Texas in Austin has such a great high-tech sector coming out. People are moving into Austin all the time because of the educational level there. If we can get some money into UT and some of the other colleges to do more research on batteries, for example, because right now that's the thing that's holding solar back, is we just don't have the battery storage that we need to have for when it's not sunny like it is today. But get some more money into research there, and then do maybe some incentives for people to build factories up here. I know part of Fort Hood, they have started letting people move into base that aren't necessarily military because the force is smaller. Perhaps there's some areas out there that could be repurposed for factories, for building those batteries, maybe for making wind turbines. But I think that's the key, is you've got to get the people out here. This is a great corridor right on the I-35 corridor. Easy to ship. We're in the center of the country. We're perfectly positioned for building these types of things and getting them out. If we can get more solar and more wind going on here, if we can get the research we need so that we've got the battery backups, I think we can. I think the U.S. could be the leading producer of solar energy and wind energy machinery and export that to the rest of the nation and to the world. We should be the leader. We shouldn't be sitting back and letting China do it.
Is there anything you would like to add about, to any potential voter out there about, why they should choose you?
I would like for them to look at what we say and what we do. I obviously don't have a record as far as politics is concerned, but I think if they look at where I put my time, where I put my money, there's the old saying, where your treasure is, your heart is there too. I work in my church, I work in my DAR chapter, my Pan American, which is a wonderful peace type of group that was started after the Mexican-American War to build unity between our countries. Look at what we do and what we say, and whenever someone says that faith, family, and country are most important, and then they sneak or no, I shouldn't say sneak, when they put something into a transportation bill that opens people up to being put in unsafe cars, like the ones that killed the Hoke girls, maybe what they're saying and what they're actually doing aren't the same. Hold us accountable. And the one thing I'd also like to say to people is, once whoever you vote for is elected, stay involved. I like to say that politics is not a spectator vote. You can't vote and say, done. You've got to stay involved. You need to be writing the people. You need to be calling them. You need to hold whoever you elect accountable at all levels, from local all the way up to the top. That would be my hope that everybody would do.